Hello and welcome back to Causing Nebula. So in today's video, as you can see from the title and from the thumbnail, I was taking a GLP-1 for the beginning half of this year. And I wanted to make a video today on how I used a GLP-1 in order to find the source of my food noise and finally stop my food noise and start to lose weight. So I've wanted to make this video for a while now. I started a GLP-1 at the beginning of this year, but I am currently not on the GLP-1 and I have not been on the GLP-1 for over 2 months. And the reason why I waited so long to make this video is because, as you know, if you know anything about GLP-1s, there's a lot of rhetoric online that once you stop taking the GLP-1, you will immediately gain weight back or you'll go back to how you used to be. And in my case, that is not true. And I knew that it wouldn't be true even before I stopped taking it, but I wanted to have some period of evidence and proof before I came on the internet and made this claim like I took a GLP-1 and I got off of it and I still haven't gained the weight back, I've lost more weight and this is how I did it and yada yada yada, right? You need some period of time to show that this is true. So I wanted to get into the video about my experience on a GLP-1. So when did I start the GLP-1? I started the GLP-1 about January or February of 2025. I don't remember exactly, but I do know that I saw my doctor sometime at the very beginning of the year. And so the doctor had actually recommended me to start taking a GLP-1 last year in 2024. And at that time, I did not want to start taking it because I was of the opinion that when you lose weight, you have to maintain weight loss for life. So you need to change your habits in a way that is sustainable for life. And so from my perspective, I saw it as taking a GLP-1 was kind of preventing you in some way from developing the necessary skills you needed to maintain a lifelong weight loss. And so at the end of 2024, I told my doctor that I didn't want to take a GLP-1. I wanted to try to buckle down and get my eating behavior under control myself before I took a GLP-1. But by the end of the year, I was still having problems with having periods of being able to keep a diet and then periods where I would order takeout or eat some kind of processed food or highly palatable food enough such that I could not lose weight, right? I was maintaining my weight last year, even though, as you know, I was going to the gym 5 days a week and lifting weights 5 days a week and walking a lot. I was still eating slightly too many calories in order to lose weight. And I think that last year, my calorie intake on average was 2,800 to 3,000 calories a day, which is not a huge amount of calories considering that I am 180 centimeters tall, but it's about 700 more calories a day than I needed in order to achieve a normal weight for my height. So at the end of the year, I still was not able to lose weight. And so I decided, you know what, let's give this a try because I'm always willing to try things out. So I started my GLP-1 sometime, I believe at the end of January, beginning of February. And so what is a GLP-1? If you look on the internet, I see so many people that have this weird idea that GLP-1s are these foreign chemicals that you're introducing into your body, but that's not true. GLP-1 is a naturally occurring hormone that helps to regulate your blood sugar, appetite, and digestion, and it is produced in your intestines in response to eating and performs several key functions. It stimulates your pancreas to release insulin, decreases the release of glycogen, a hormone that raises blood sugar and slows down emptying of your stomach and promotes the feeling of fullness or satiety, right? GLP-1 is located in your brain and also in your intestines, but I read that those two things are not necessarily connected and they don't necessarily work in conjunction, which is why some people, they don't feel physical fullness when they eat food. And then other people like me, even though I feel physical fullness, my brain continues to search for food and continues to think about food and continues to want to eat food. So it is not the case that GLP-1 is a foreign chemical. GLP-1 drugs, all they do is use the GLP-1 hormone and to simply amplify its behavior to make the impact of your regular GLP-1 hormone stronger than what it is, because in certain people it is just weaker. For different reasons, right? Because human beings are all genetically slightly different. And so the GLP-1 is, as I said, not a foreign body, just like insulin is not foreign, right? Our bodies all should make insulin. Some people have better insulin regulation than other people, which is why other people have to take insulin injections on a daily basis. So which GLP-1 did I take? I took the GLP-1 by the name of Saxenda or Liraglutide. And the reason why I took this one, it came down just to what was available on the market currently. So we all know that medicines like Ozempic and Wegovy and trizepatide and stuff like that, semaglutide, they are all so popular and so well promoted that in the country that I live in right now, Ozempic is completely sold out. Like every time they restock Ozempic, a lot of hospitals, small clinics, doctors that deal in weight loss, doctors that deal in like beauty or plastic surgery, these types of clinics and stuff, they basically buy up the entire market and then they resell it to customers. And so Ozempic was completely sold out everywhere. No pharmacies had it and was not possible to get it. But because the country that I live in started to import other types of GLP-1s like Saxenda was something that was readily more available. And unlike Ozempic and other GLP-1 drugs, Saxenda is not a weekly injectable. It is a daily injectable, which means that it has a much shorter half-life compared to other drugs. And so I actually really enjoyed that I ended up taking this one because it was technically half the price of Ozempic, and also because its half-life is much shorter than Ozempic, it was never as strong as Ozempic, and so I never got any of the negative side effects that a lot of people reported that they had when they were on Ozempic. And so also, as you know, I have stage 3 kidney disease, so I take daily medication anyway, and so taking this medication just alongside my regular medication was much easier than having to remember to take it once a week. And so which doses did I take? So GLP-1s, they generally have a series of different doses that you increase. And so for Saxenda, the doses start out at 0.6 and they extend up to 3.0. So you inject a specific amount of medication per day, and then each pen has a maximum amount of medication. And so for Saxenda, it was 18, I think, milligram units. And so I started out on week 1 at 0.6, and then after the first 7 days, I moved up to 1.2. And when I moved up to 1.2, I actually had to stay at 1.2 for the next 3 or 4 months. And this was because when I went to fill my prescription for Saxenda, the pharmacy only had a limited supply of the medication. And the country that I live in, you either take what they have to offer or you cannot take the prescription at all. And I had gone to there was like a row of pharmacies, and I had gone to like 7 or 8 different pharmacies back to back to back to back to back. And the majority of them did not even stock this medication whatsoever. And so I had no choice but to get as much as I could from the one place that did stock it. And so I stayed on that dose for about 3.5 months, and then I went to see my doctor again, and then he gave me 10 more pens, and it was originally supposed to be 16 pens, but again, when I went to the pharmacies, none of them had more than 10 pens. So for my second dose of Saxenda, I only went up to 1.8, and I stayed at 1.8 from May of 2025 until I stopped Saxenda in August of 2025. So I never went up to dose 2.4 or dose 3.0. I see a lot of comments on the internet saying that the most effective doses are generally 2.4 to 3.0 for Saxenda, but I cannot give any kind of experience or advice on that. In my opinion, 1.8 was good enough. But if you are interested in the GLP-1, I want people to understand something, that GLP-1, because it is naturally occurring in your body, over time your body gets very good at metabolizing it, and slowly but surely it starts to wear off. And the effects of a GLP-1 drug eventually will run out because your body will get used to metabolizing it, just like it gets used to any other kind of foreign agent that you introduce into your body. So what were the side effects of the GLP-1 Saxenda? Because I think Saxenda is not a weekly injectable, it's a daily injectable. In my experience, I did not get any of the really negative side effects that a lot of people reported on stuff like semaglutide or Ozempic, stuff like nausea, the inability to eat any food for the first few days because the dose for Saxenda is so small because you take it on a daily basis rather than on a weekly basis. So the very first side effects that I felt after taking it was this kind of mental, I guess, like euphoria that you feel whenever you start to take any kind of new medication. And anybody who has ever been prescribed any kind of medicine for a short or long term period, you know that whenever you start taking a new medicine, you have this physical awareness that you can feel the medicine working inside of your body. I think it's a bit hard for people who have never been prescribed any kind of prescription medication, but if you have, you know that feeling of feeling slightly different because you know that you're on a new medication. So the biggest quote unquote side effect I felt was this kind of mild mental, I want to say cloudiness, but not like a strong cloudiness, very, very, very mild cloudiness when it came to thinking about food. So I have food noise, and if you are somebody that has food noise, you know that your brain is constantly having these repetitive thoughts about food, like, oh, I should eat this. I know I shouldn't eat this, but I really want to eat it. And, you know, I'm not going to eat it. I'm just going to wait and I'm going to eat this. It's just these constant intrusive thoughts about food. And what Saxenda did was it completely silenced that. And then it made it very difficult for you to muster up the mental energy to even think about food, right? It came down to the fact that you wanted to eat simply out of function, right? There was no craving, no strong desire to eat, but on the flip side, I also didn't have any kind of nausea or aversion to any kind of food. And so when it came to like digestive issues, I had a noticeable slowing in my digestion about the first maybe 5 days. And then after that, I feel like it just kind of balanced itself out where I didn't necessarily notice it. So I had indigestion maybe the first like 2 or 3 days after taking the medication. Like I could feel the food that I had eaten sitting in my stomach and not moving for maybe the first 2 or 3 days. And then after that, I felt like my stomach digestion was mostly normal. I didn't feel any kind of like grumbling hunger pains or anything like that, but I also didn't feel any kind of indigestion after that. But the biggest negative side effect for me was the slowing of my intestinal modality. What Saxenda and other GLP-1s do is they slow down your stomach emptying, and then they also slow down how fast food breaks down and moves through your intestines. And this can lead to bloating and constipation, which is just a general standard for a GLP-1. Your intestines feel like they are just not moving, right? You can feel that they are full, and for some people it's very uncomfortable, but for me it was not necessarily uncomfortable. But I would not pass any kind of bowel movement for like 4 to 6 days in a row. And whenever I did have any kind of bowel movement, it would be very small amounts. So for me personally, I generally just didn't like that. Like I didn't like the feeling of feeling like you could feel stool in your intestines, but not feeling it moving out, right? Generally, you know that you can feel your bowel movements occasionally, and you can feel food moving down through your intestines sometimes. And then once it gets to the end, you can feel your body shift, and then you need to go to the bathroom. But with this medication, I felt like that was really weird to have your intestines feel like they are just not moving whatsoever. And even once I stopped taking Saxenda for like the next 7 days afterward, I was still passing bowel movements that were probably like a week or 2 or 3 old because it sat in my intestines for so long. And I really, really did not like that side effect the most, even though I didn't experience any kind of extreme discomfort regarding it. It's just not normal. So that's a big reason why I don't like the GLP-1, and it's a big reason why I would never take a GLP-1 again in the future, or why I would not stay on a GLP-1 long term, because as I said, that's simply not normal. So GLP-1 misconceptions. So I think that certain content creators, like the person by the name of Amy and Half, she is like the poster child for these types of misconceptions, where people perceive GLP-1s as this easy way out, that if you take this medication, you are not really putting in any effort. But the reality is this: food is an addiction for a lot of people. And if you know anything about any kind of pathological behavior, you know that there is an element of you not being able to control it. And I think that we often really judge certain types of disordered or pathological behavior, like gambling, alcoholism, drug addiction, food addiction, right? These types of things, they get a lot of attention, and people really love to judge them. And they have this idea like, well, why can't you just change your behavior? All you have to do is behaviorally not do this thing. But they don't realize is that what happens when your body, or your brain in this case, is addicted to a certain thing is that your brain will badger you over and over and over again, endlessly for hours, with these intrusive thoughts about doing a certain behavior. For example, in the case of a person like me who has food noise, it's endless intrusive thoughts about eating, right? It's endless thoughts, right? And they don't go away whatsoever. So you can literally choose not to eat the food, right? You can choose to not eat it, but you will sit there in a state of your brain continuously thinking about it, reminding you to do it. You should eat something. You should have that. These constant mental negotiations until you give into it. And I would imagine the same thing for alcohol and drugs and gambling and things like that. But I think that most people don't realize that almost everybody on the planet has some kind of pathological behavior that they engage in, that they intellectually know they shouldn't do, but for some reason they simply cannot stop doing it. And this applies to almost every single person on the planet. Most people don't think, again, that it applies to them, but if you spend any amount of time around anybody, you'll start to figure out what their vice is. So it is not the case that a GLP-1 is the easy way out. A GLP-1, in my opinion, is just a helping hand, right? If rather than an alcoholic just trying to bare knuckle their way through sobriety, it is reasonable for them to go into a treatment facility to be around people and people who have methods and also even medications that they can use to help wean a person off of alcohol. The same with drugs, right? The same with gambling, right? It makes no logical sense that you should expect a person to just kind of figure it out by themselves, right? Because the odds are that you yourself cannot figure out your own vice by yourself without any kind of help in some kind of way. Even though people use GLP-1s as an easy way out, it does not necessarily inherently mean that they are easy ways out. They are just a helping hand. And if you can find a way to help you do something to save your own life, why wouldn't you take it? I don't understand this moral martyrdom that a lot of people engage in when it comes to stuff like GLP-1 drugs or getting help for something. People feel like you need to suffer more than you are already suffering, because only through suffering is your overcoming of that thing valid. And I think that that's bullshit, because again, if we look at anybody else's vices, nobody overcomes them by themselves almost ever, and then nobody ever overcomes them completely without going through a lot of suffering. And I don't understand going through suffering when you have stuff like GLP-1 drugs to help you. But another big misconception is muscle loss and saggy skin. So again, back to the content creator Amy and Half. This woman, you can see she has very low muscle mass. She has a lot of saggy skin. She doesn't look really good. And people think that GLP-1 drugs cause you to lose muscle mass. They do not cause you to lose muscle mass. A big reason why people lose muscle is because they do not follow a GLP-1 drug approved diet. The GLP-1 drug will reduce your appetite, especially if you go on like a drug like Ozempic or semaglutide and you go to the highest doses. It will reduce your appetite so much that you cannot take in very much food. And so doctors always recommend that you eat a diet high in protein, because you need to get nutrients from protein to prevent your body from metabolizing its own muscle. But guess what? A lot of fat people are also very lazy as fuck, and they don't want to completely change their attitudes or their behaviors. So even once the medication starts working and it takes away the food noise, it takes away the compulsive and intrusive thoughts about food, they also still make the conscious decision to not follow the diet to eat high protein. If you see a lot of content creators currently on GLP-1 that are fat, you see them still eating high carbs, still eating processed food, still eating these foods. And when they were eating these foods and they were eating, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 calories a day, they were still inadvertently eating enough protein to maintain a decent amount of muscle mass. But once they started the GLP-1, now they are eating in the same ratios of processed food and carbohydrates to protein, but because they are eating such a limited amount of calories, their overall protein ratio is so low that their body starts to metabolize their muscles because they are not eating enough protein. So if it was the case that they ate sufficiently amount of protein that they needed to maintain a muscle mass for the day, they would not be able to eat any other food for the day, right? They wouldn't be able to eat any kind of bullshit processed food, any kind of bullshit high carb food, but they don't want to do that, right? Because that food tastes the best anyway. And so because they are still obsessed with engaging in that behavior, because once you start a GLP-1, you no longer have the physiological dependency on that food, right? You no longer have the intrusive thoughts on that food. So your brain is not the one dictating for you to eat that food and constantly reminding you to eat that food. You are making the conscious black and white decision to choose to eat a donut over choosing to eat lean protein. You are making that conscious decision. And that conscious decision is leading to muscle loss and therefore your skin to look awful once you lose the weight. And people also think that GLP-1s increase your metabolism. It is the exact opposite. They make your digestion slow down, and it makes it uncomfortable to eat a lot of food. And it also makes it, again, mentally difficult for you to want to eat a lot of food. It reduces your craving so much that you have no desire to continue to eat after a certain point, which means that, in my opinion, a lot of people that are on like high doses of Ozempic, they are essentially starving for a few days a week, because they report that they are unable to even eat anything the first few days after they take their injection, because it's such a large amount of medication. It makes them feel so sick. So they are essentially partially starving themselves to some degree. So no, your metabolism does not get any faster. It reduces your cravings and it reduces your desire to eat to such a degree that you lose weight very quickly, because you are taking in substantially less calories. And then the final misconception people have is that taking a GLP-1 is a lifetime medication, and for a lot of people, it will become a lifetime medication, but not because this is, in my opinion, necessarily a guarantee. In my experience, the reason why I was able to go off of it and it not turn into a long-term thing is because I stopped eating food that was causing me to want to eat a lot of unhealthy food, right? So I completely changed my diet, changed my behavior. And once I changed my diet, the food noise and all of that stuff stopped. And so because it stopped, I went off the medication and I am fine because I've maintained these habits. But again, as I said, if you see a lot of fat people on GLP-1s on social media, you see them still microdosing unhealthy food. They are still microdosing the food that makes them want to eat more unhealthy food, right? There's a reason why ultra processed food is considered a negative. Is because it is chemically designed to make your brain crave it more. So even though the medication can to some degree greatly reduce your ability to crave that food, as I said, GLP-1 is a hormone that is occurring in your body. And so over time, it becomes weaker and weaker and weaker and less effective. And so long as you continue to microdose those types of foods that are very high in dopamine and high in addiction, you are still going to have food noise. So how much weight did I lose? I think this will probably be the thing that a lot of people care about the most. So if you know anything about my story, you know that I started out 5 years ago at 135 kilograms, which is just under 300 pounds, I think about 298 pounds. And so I went from 135 to 90 kilograms by myself between 2020 to 2022. And then I plateaued from 2023 to 2025. I basically yo-yoed between 90 and like 96, 97 kilograms. On a GLP-1, I've lost 8 total kilograms. I started GLP-1 at 96 kilograms, and then I stopped the GLP-1 at 88 kilograms. So I've lost a total of about 54 kilos, and I lost 45 kilograms of that completely naturally, and I kept the 45 kilograms off. So I lost a very minor amount of weight on the GLP-1, but for me, the most important thing is that in using a GLP-1, I figured out what was causing my food noise, and I was able to adjust my diet and my behavior, and I was able to stop the food noise even after stopping the GLP-1. So when did I stop the GLP-1? I stopped it on August 20th of 2025, and I made sure to make a mental note of this because I wanted to wait about 2 or so months later before making this video, because I wanted there to be a substantial amount of time in between me stopping the GLP-1 and then making a video talking about how I fixed my food noise. Because before August 20th of 2025, I realized that I had figured out what was causing my food noise anyway. And so I was pretty certain that I would be fine once I stopped the medication anyway, but I needed some period, like I said, of proof of that. So I waited 2 months in order to make this video. So it has been officially 65 days since I stopped the GLP-1. So did I gain any weight back? No. Since I stopped, I've lost an additional 4 kilograms since, because as I said, I figured out the source of my food noise and I changed my behavior and my diet, and I have maintained that continued change in behavior and diet, and it has resulted in further weight loss, because the medication doesn't do anything. At the end of the day, it is calories in, calories out. So long as you are in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. The medication, again, helps you deal with food noise and cravings, and it slows your metabolism down to prevent you from being able to eat a lot, and it also slows down your ability to care much about food, and that in the end results in you eating less calories over certain periods of time, which again results in weight loss. The medication does not make it so that you can eat 10,000 calories a day and then not gain weight. That's not how it works. If you eat too many calories on a GLP-1, you will still gain weight. That is just how thermodynamic and basic fucking biology works. So I really wish people would stop with these weird ass misconceptions, because all it does is confuse people. This is, in my opinion, the most important part of this video, the source of my food noise. I figured it out because what I started to notice when I was on the GLP-1 for the first leg of it, the first 3 to 4 months at 1.2 milligram dose a day, I initially felt like, as I said, my thoughts about food were very cloudy, so it was very hard to me to want to eat something or care about eating something. But I noticed, again, over time, my body started to adjust to that. And so when I first started taking the GLP-1, I thought like, oh, I can just eat whatever I feel like eating and eat it in moderation. And then the GLP-1 will do all of the heavy lifting, and I don't really have to put any extreme effort in, right? Like, I know what types of food I need to eat. But again, at that time, I did not realize how much of my eating problem was not just food noise, right? Not just this physiological problem with food, but also a behavioral problem with food. I had food noise, but on top of that, I also had a habit of bored eating for no reason. And so I started to notice that whenever I was just eating whatever I wanted, initially on the GLP-1, I could only eat a small amount of it. But over time, as my body got used to the GLP-1 and it got used to the dose of 1.2 milligrams of GLP-1 per day, I started to notice little by little, my food noise started to come back. So, but then I realized that the reason for this was down to the types of food I eat, and then also the types of food I would eat once I started eating for the day and I broke my fast from night. As I said in this video, I have stage 3 kidney failure as a result of being morbidly obese. And so this is how I used to eat back when I initially developed kidney disease. I haven't eaten like this for a very, very long time, but back in like 2016 to like 2018, I had a diet primarily consisting of food that was like literally all beige. Everything was beige. I love fruits, I love vegetables, but during this period in my life where like I was in this binge cycle, like I did not eat any kind of fruit or vegetables almost ever. And so I would literally eat junk food, this types of like pizzas, high carb, highly palatable food, high fat food, deep fried food, right? These types of food, I would eat them almost on a daily fucking basis, to the point where during this time I put on like 70 pounds or something like that over a 2-year period. And there was actually a time where I used to come home at night after work and I would go to the store and I would buy like 2 bags of like chips, not these small chips either, like the proper like medium bags of chips. And then I would buy like some cookies and some like gummy candy and like other stuff. And I would eat like 1,500 to 2,000 calories of just junk food at the end of the day on top of whatever else I ate that day. And I did that for 2 years consecutively. I don't know how I just didn't die during this time, right? But during this time, eating like that, what it did was it caused kidney disease. And I didn't know that I had high blood pressure. It caused high blood pressure. I didn't know that my kidneys were failing. Like, I didn't know any of that stuff. But I was diagnosed with kidney disease in 2020, and I had started like a diet, and I had started cleaning up my diet in 2019 anyway. But a few months after I started cleaning up my diet, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, and this type of diet is the reason why. And I only made it to, like I said, less than 300 pounds. And I know I used to eat like utter shit. Like, I would just eat whatever I felt like all day. When I was out, people would offer me food. There would be whatever available. I would just eat it, whatever I felt like eating, just all day eating. And it was carbohydrates. And this shit is really bad for your insulin, and it's really bad for your body just in general. And I think people will say like, I don't understand how people can eat like this. And it's just like, this is building up tolerance, right? If you've ever seen like an alcoholic, you'll see them drink alcohol like they're drinking water, and it looks so alarming to a person that can't really handle alcohol. But they did not start doing that from day one, right? They started off getting drunk after maybe a couple beers, right? Initially, when they first started drinking, they would get drunk after a couple beers, and then it got to the point where they didn't get drunk until they drank 12 beers, right? And then it got to the point where they could drink, you know, a 5th bottle of vodka like water, right? it is a tolerance that you build up over time. With unhealthy food, it's the same. Generally, most people cannot eat this type of food in large amounts because they don't eat it frequently enough to build up a tolerance to it. But if you are a person that was like raised in a family where this food was readily available and eaten all the time, your body just adapts to it and gets used to being able to handle it. Like, I know people mention like, oh, I could never eat that. I would get so sick. I would get so bloated. I would feel so uncomfortable. Like, I would feel so sluggish. I would get a headache. That is because you don't eat it frequently enough to have a tolerance to be able to handle it. And now I can also not eat this food in large amounts anymore, which is very bizarre. If you had told me that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. But now in 2025, October of 2025, I cannot eat most of this food in large amounts. I can have some of this food and it'll be fine, but I find that I get really tired of this food very quickly, and that is because my tolerance for it is completely gone, right? Because I've gone long periods of not eating it to the point where my body has essentially reset to the point where it can no longer easily handle this type of food, and I get very, very uncomfortable now, even if I eat too many carbohydrates of like healthy carbohydrates. I find it so uncomfortable, physically uncomfortable, and it's so uncomfortable that it discourages me from doing it again. But this is how I used to eat back in like 2016, 2018. But even though I started losing weight in 2020, I would occasionally like order a pizza maybe once a week, or I would occasionally eat like a hamburger once a week, and I would occasionally have like chips once a week, right? I would have it not every single day, but having this type of food a couple times a week is enough to keep you slightly overweight, right? I was still 20 pounds overweight simply because even though I was eating healthy like 65-70% of the time, still enough calories was coming from this type of food to keep me slightly overweight. So this type of food occasionally is why I still yo-yo between 90 and 96 kilograms for 3 years. So how did I know that processed food was causing my food noise? I think I mentioned it slightly earlier in this video. Like I said, before I would eat anything in the morning, I woke up and my food noise was completely silent. Even though I felt like some grumbling on my stomach and I felt a little bit hungry, it did not feel like it was something I couldn't endure. And I did not even feel bothered about having to eat in the morning. And so I started to do research. Like, how does that make sense, right? Why is it that I don't feel any kind of hunger or a strong desire to eat anything in the morning when I first wake up? And this goes on for hours, right? It goes on sometimes till midday. If I was really busy and I couldn't eat for whatever reason until like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the evening, I could make it half the day without eating anything before my blood sugar started to get really low and I started to feel bad. And so what I found out is that when we go to sleep at night, our body goes into a fasted state where our body basically subsists off of glucose stored in our muscles and then the glycogen stored in our liver. This is why we can survive throughout the night, and it's why we can survive periods of famine and periods of food insecurity, because the human body is just designed to survive, right? Even though we have to drink water on a daily basis, you can technically survive several days in a row with no water because our body stores excess water in our body, obviously, right? And the same thing for oxygen, right? We have several minutes of oxygen available in our blood if we are ever in a situation where we have to hold our breath for some small period of time. So the same thing for glucose and glycogen. So your body goes into a state where it relies on its stored glucose and glycogen for energy to sustain itself. And what it does is it resets your insulin, so your insulin goes back to baseline, and so your body goes into this state overnight. And so when you wake up in the morning, generally for me specifically, I'm not going to speak for other people, I don't feel any kind of hunger. And so I realized that once I started eating during the day, that's when it's like this food noise switch would be flipped on. And I was like, what the fuck is causing that? And so I started doing research on like, what is causing that? How does that make sense? And I basically realized that once I would start eating during the daytime, I would usually have something that had carbohydrates in it. And again, carbohydrates are not bad for you at all, but if the ratio of carbohydrates is too high, what it does is it messes with your insulin, and your insulin is linked to food noise. And for me, it's definitely linked to food noise. So when my insulin starts to rise and fall and rise and fall, what it does is my body starts reminding me, like, I need to eat something else. You need to eat something else. You should have something else. Have some more carbs. Have some more candy. Have some more cookies, right? Have some more bullshit. And I feel like it got worse whenever I would eat stuff, especially that was processed. But like I said, processed food is designed to cause that impact on certain people. And I know that people are going to say, like, I know people who eat processed food all the time and this isn't true for them, but it's like, so what, right? It's not true for 100% of people, but it's true for enough people such that whole countries of people are super morbidly obese, right? The majority of the United States is overweight and obese because we eat way too much processed fucking food. And so once I realized this, what I did was I stopped initially eating carbohydrates in the morning. And I did this for a few months. And again, what I noticed was that even though I would eat some protein, even though I would have some kind of fats or a small piece of fruit or something in the morning, or some yogurt or some light cheese in the morning, I noticed that even though I eat something, my food noise didn't appear. So I'm the kind of person where I will go through the steps of testing out whether or not something is going to work, right? I'm not going to just believe it full stop either way. I'm going to test it out and see what happens. And so I realized, like, when I wake up in the morning and I have like some chicken breast and I have an apple, and then I'll have a couple low-fat cheese sticks, and then I'll have like a yogurt, I feel fine. Like, I feel 100% good. I have a little bit of food in my stomach. I go to the gym. I exercise. Like, my blood sugar is, because my blood sugar is stable, I don't feel like my energy is low. And because I had carbohydrates the night before, my body is still subsisting off of the glucose stored in my muscles and the glycogen stored in my liver. So I have energy because we carry around about 48 hours worth of glycogen and glucose in our bodies just as backup in case that we don't have any access to carbohydrates or other food throughout the day. So once I implemented that change, I noticed that my food noise started to disappear. And I noticed that when I was on the GLP-1. And so, again, even though I was on the GLP-1, as I said, the GLP-1 over time starts to weaken. And by the end of the second week in August, I started to notice even my hunger grumbling in my stomach was starting to come back. So that means the GLP-1 at 1.8 milligrams was no longer working effectively anymore. And so I realized that I would have to get off of it anyway. And so I have been implementing that change consistently for the last 5 months, and that has been the single reason why my food noise has not come back. So what is my diet like now? So this is what my diet looks like right now. Here I forgot to add breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but this is essentially my breakfast, lunch, and dinner on a daily basis. So for breakfast, generally I eat 100 grams of lean protein, and then I'll have some kind of carb. It could be a banana, it could be rice, it could be noodles, it could be bread, and then I'll have a vegan protein shake because I have kidney disease. So I take 50% of my protein from meat and then 50% of it just from protein shakes that are vegan, because too much protein is not good for your kidney function in the long term. And so I need these carbs in the morning because I go to the gym in the morning. And as I said, I did not initially eat carbs in the morning, but what I noticed over time is that I cannot lift heavy in the gym if I don't have enough glycogen and glucose stored in my muscles. Like I don't have the power to push weights or pull weights if I don't have enough carbohydrates in my body. So I do have about 20 grams of carbs in the morning. And then for lunch, when I come home from the gym, I'll usually have 200 grams of lean protein. Usually it's chicken. And I know that chicken gives people like a bad rap, like, all you're going to eat is chicken every single day. But like, we live in the 21st century. The country that I live in, I have access to like companies that make different types of pre-portioned chicken breast, and they flavor it in like 20 different damn flavors. So you can eat chicken breast flavored in all types of flavors. You can make your own marinades, right? You have all of these options. You don't even have to do chicken breast. You can do lean pork, lean beef, right? You can do lean fishes. You can do whatever you want. But the reality is there is enough variety of lean proteins that you can eat that you can always feel full. And then I'll have some kind of vegetable. This week, my vegetable is zucchini. And then I'll usually have a Coke Zero with lunch. And then when I go to work, I don't eat anything, but I noticed that I would get hungry after work, especially on days when I worked later than usual. And so on the interim between getting off work and getting home, there's like an hour, and I feel like I'm so hungry and I have to walk by all of these fucking restaurants and all of these places you can stop to get food. And so in order to resist going to like buy hot pot or something like that, which is a waste of money, I started putting an apple in my bag. And so when I get off work, I'll just eat my apple on the way to the bus stop. And then when I get home, I'll have another 100 grams of lean protein. And then I'll have another vegan protein shake. And then at night here, you can see I eat the bulk of my carbohydrates for the day with my dinner. And I do this, as I said, because what it does is, even though I have carbohydrates at breakfast because I need them in order to go to the gym, the majority of them I eat the night before because, as I said, it is better for my food noise, to keep my food noise quiet, to have the majority of my carbohydrates before I go to sleep, because while carbohydrates will raise my blood sugar, by the time my blood sugar starts to fall, I will be asleep. And so I will not deal with any of the effects of my blood sugar falling. And overnight, as it starts to fall, it will just go back to baseline, and I'll go back into my nightly fast. And then I'll wake up in the morning, everything reset. And another thing that I do is I don't eat an excessive amount of carbs anymore. I go to the gym now 7 days a week, and I lift weights 6 days a week. And so in order to have enough power to lift weights, as I said, I need to have a certain amount of carbs. So I eat about 120 grams of carbs a day. And so at dinner, I'll have about 80 to 100, roughly 80 to 100. And then I'll have about 20 or so carbs at breakfast. So roughly 120 to 150 carbs a day. But in my opinion, if you're somebody that doesn't work out a lot or you are sedentary, you need even less than that, probably less than 50 grams of carbs a day. And I know that carbohydrates are like really divisive among people because they feel like they need an excessive amount of them. But unfortunately, unless you exercise a lot, you really don't. And I think that a lot of people will look at this diet and they'll think like, holy shit, this diet is so restrictive. Like, I could never eat this much. This isn't normal to eat like this. And I promise you, you have a food addiction. That is an addiction talking. And if you had told me 2 years ago that I could eat like this almost every single day for weeks and months on end, and even though I do get bored and I'll like switch out the protein to a different protein, or I'll switch out the carb, or switch out the vegetable, or switch out the fruits, I eat like this almost statically. And I do this with little effort, right? I am somebody who ate myself to kidney disease. Right? I ate myself to kidney disease. So I know what it feels like to have anxiety about food, to feel restricted about food, right? I know what it feels like. And if you had told me, again, 2 years ago that I could eat like this and be completely unbothered by it, I would not have believed you. But I eat like this completely unfucking bothered. And if anything, I find it comforting because I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel bloated. I don't feel sick, right? I don't feel weighed down. It doesn't really affect me any kind of negative way, right? Because I'm eating a sufficient amount of everything in reasonable portions, and so it's not negatively affecting me. And because I'm eating like this almost repetitively, the result is that I am consistently losing weight. So I want people to understand that if you look at this way of eating and you think like this seems really restrictive and I can't do this and I need to have, chips or fast food or more highly palatable food at least a couple days a week, I want y'all to understand something. That is not a normal state to be in. Your brain is just addicted to those types of food. And because mine was for a very, very, very long time. So a lot of fit people, they're able to eat like this, not because they are morally superior to anybody, it's because they're not addicted to anything, right? And if we swap out this diet for, like, let's say we swap this out for beverages, alcohol versus non-alcoholic beverages. Yeah, guess what? If a person had drank like 0-calorie drinks and like healthy fruit juices and water primarily for weeks and weeks on end as their beverage of the day, nobody would think that was crazy, right? Nobody would say like, oh my God, I can't believe you don't have any kind of alcoholic beverage in there multiple days a week. That's restrictive and crazy, right? Because we would all say, a person that thinks like that has probably an addiction to alcohol, because they do, right? Our body needs food, and it needs food that is high in nutritional value, and that is not processed. And so if your body is craving food that is low in nutritional value and that is processed, that's because you're addicted to that food, not because not eating that food is abnormal. And I really, really want to impress that upon people, because I wish that I had known that. Like, once I got on this diet and once I got off the GLP-1 and I was able to sustain this diet, it was like I realized, like, holy fuck, me having those types of thoughts about food was not normal. Like, that shit was not normal, because it's not normal. Generally, human beings should be able to eat a standard, fairly simple diet over long periods of time, because all of this food is good, right? We all like lean protein. We all like simple carbs like bananas and potatoes and rice and noodles and stuff like that. You know, protein shakes are processed technically, but again, nobody's fat because they eat too many fucking protein shakes. An apple, grapes, peaches, whatever, watermelon, what have you. These things have calories in them, but I don't know any fat people that are fat because they eat too many of those, right? Coke Zero is also processed, but again, one Coke Zero a day ain't hurting nobody, right? Nobody's fat because they drink too many fucking Coke Zeros, right? It's everything else that y'all drink on in conjunction with this bullshit. So over here to the side, we can see like I'll sometimes have like little add-ins. Sometimes I'll eat like plain yogurt, or I'll get these like individually wrapped little nuts, and then I'll have like light string cheese in my refrigerator, and then a few days a week I'll get like a latte. I'll make it at home sometimes. Sometimes I'll buy a little latte from a coffee shop on the way to the gym or the way to work. But generally, these are the foods that I eat the majority of the month, and this is every single day. As I said, I switch out the protein sometimes, switch out the carbs, switch out the fruits and vegetables sometimes. But this is my diet, and this is how I have been able to lose the majority of the weight, and this is how I've been able to maintain just a normal, healthy lifestyle. So I think people think that I eat healthy 100% of the time. It is not true. And I'm not even necessarily advocating that we do eat 100% of the time 100% healthy, because I think that it's just not reality. That's just not realistic. Even as like just a human evolutionary basis, human beings have had periods of surplus or access to like really high value food occasionally. So for me, I eat this diet the vast majority of the days of the month, but except for about 2 or 3 days a month. And these days are red because these are the days where I start my period. And as of the making of this video, coincidentally, I am on my period, so I can give you an idea of what I eat when I'm on my period. And so during this time, I generally don't follow a strict diet. When I eat like this, the majority of the food that I eat it, as you can see, already in pre-portioned amounts, right? The rice that I order is pre-packaged out. The vegetables, I don't really count them. I count the oil that I cook them in, but I don't count them. A banana is already pre-portioned out, right? The protein shakes are pre-portioned out. The chicken is pre-portioned out. The cola is pre-portioned out. So because everything is pre-portioned out, I eat roughly the exact same amount of calorie, within a range of probably a couple hundred calories every single day, right? Everything is already pre-portioned out because for me, it's easier because if I had to calculate the weight of all of this shit 3 times a day, every single day, I would get so sick and fucking tired of it. And that is why I made it easier for myself by buying things that were already pre-portioned out for the most part. And so when I'm on my period, I still generally have, for example, I'll still get my protein in. I'll still eat my chicken breast, still drink my protein shakes, but I will add in little amounts of other foods that I just feel like I want to eat. So as I said, I'm on my period today. It started yesterday, and the day before on Friday, I went to the capital city to see my doctor, and I did my blood test, my urine test, yada, yada, yada. And so for the last 1, 2, 3 days, including today, I have eaten just different types of food that I wanted to eat. And for example, on Friday, I had a hamburger and I had some fries because it is a restaurant that I don't have in the city that I live in. And I only go to the capital city once every 5 or 6 months. Like it's been 6 months since I've gone to this restaurant in the capital. So I had a hamburger and I had some of the fries, but not all of them because it was way too many. And then I came home and I was dead tired after coming from the capital because I didn't sleep the night before. I slept like 3 hours because I had an exam that I had to do. It was just a mess. I went to a store that I haven't been to in like 3 years near the train station, and I bought a slice of pizza, and I bought these like meatballs. And so I ate the pizza and I had like 2 of the meatballs, and then I just went to sleep at the end of that day because I was just like, I'm dead tired. And so I think I had like maybe a couple chips or some kind, and I just went to sleep. And so the next day I woke up and I had my protein again, my chicken breast. I had my protein shake, and then I think I had like some chips that I had bought. Like I think there was a new flavor of Doritos that I had bought when I was in the capital because I wanted to try it. So I had some Doritos, and I didn't have any other type of carbs in my house before going to the gym, so I had some of those. And then I went to the gym. And I came home, and on the way home, I was super tired still from the night before because I didn't sleep well. And so I decided, I'm just going to order some Chinese food. And so I ordered just a single serving of Chinese food, and I ate that, and I ate it with 200 grams of chicken. As you saw in my diet plan here, I ate I eat these 200 grams of chicken usually anyway, but because the Chinese food was so high in carbs, I figured I needed the protein to balance it out. So I ate the Chinese food that's mostly noodles and rice, and then I ate the 200 grams of chicken, and I just drank some water, and I think I had 2 cucumbers with it, and that was what I ate for lunch. And then I think I also had like a bag of gummy candy yesterday because I just wanted to eat it. And then yesterday I had so many carbs that I was just like, you know what? I feel like I've eaten enough fucking carbs for the day. Like I just have this internal regulatory system where it's like, I feel like I've had enough carbs. And I didn't have my grocery order for the week. So I put in my grocery order, and my groceries came this morning. And my groceries are literally this, right? I ordered my chicken breast. I got my protein shakes are already stocked. Got my zucchini, my apples, my rice. Coke Zero, I already have it in my house. I have all of these things right now in my house anyway. So I got my grocery orders all prepared. But today I was just like, you know what? It's the second day of my period. And it was like, I really want some cereal. Like, I haven't had cereal in probably like 5 months, like any cereal. And I usually buy like little cups of cereal, you know, they sell at the grocery store. But I didn't go to the grocery store, and I was like, oh, fuck me. So I ordered a little bit of cereal with my grocery order. I added it on, and then I ordered some milk, some low-fat milk to eat with my cereal. And so I had a serving of cereal this morning, and I had 2 different types of cereal. One is like a really healthy one, and one is like a little kid's one, right? Because I fucking love a little kid's cereal. But I had a serving of each of those, and then I was like, you know what? I also really wanted to fucking eat some fried chicken, and I meant to get some chicken when I was in the Capitol, but I forgot. And so I ordered also some chicken today, and I had a little bit of fried chicken, and that's really it. So for the last 3 days, I've had food that's very, very high reward, highly palatable. Some of it is processed, but I have not eaten any of it in excess. My fried chicken, I ate maybe less than half of it. The Chinese food was a single serving portion. I ate all of it. The gummy candy was a single serving portion. I ate all of it. The pizza was 1 slice. I ate all of it, right? But because I did not eat an excessive amount of food, I feel fine. But another thing that I noticed is that when I do this, I don't feel like it's going to turn into like a spiral of overeating for multiple days on end. Tomorrow is Monday, and I am going to go right back to eating on this diet, and I'm going to stay on this diet again until my period starts again. And I am not going to have any kind of chips, any kind of Chinese food, any kind of fried chicken or anything like that. Like, I'm not going to have any of that food during that time, right? And I think that, again, people will say that's really restrictive. How can you eat like that? And it's just like, why do we think that that's strange to be able to eat like that for weeks on end? Like, why have we normalized not being able to eat like that for weeks on end? If we switch this calendar to 26 days of drinking water with every meal and not having any alcohol, nobody would think that that was crazy, right? No one would think it was crazy. But because it is eating healthy, nutritionally dense food and not eating processed or very high reward, high calorie food, we all have this mental idea like this is outrage and we can't survive this. I don't understand why a normal human being can't survive on this type of diet. Like, if you think that, explain it down to me in the comment section. Why do you think that that makes sense? Because this diet, there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's not lacking in anything, right? You're not under eating, you're not being underfed in any way. And the idea that we have normalized thinking that this type of diet is abnormal and that this type of diet on regular basis is normal is fucking outrageous to me. This is what's crazy, right? No, you don't need to have pizza once a week. You can survive eating pizza once every 3 fucking months. Like, you can survive eating pizza, having a piece of pizza once a month, right? You can survive that. Like, that's not going to kill you, right? You don't need to have chips a couple times a week. You can survive having chips one time once a month, right? We have really lost the fucking plot in thinking that we need to have shit like this on a regular basis. And I realize now just how outrageously normalized this bullshit behavior is in our society. This is bullshit. Because if we switched out all of this food for alcohol, you would not see even one person defending drinking that fucking much. But we have made it seem like we all need to eat this fucking food. Otherwise, we just can't fucking survive off just protein and regular vegetables and fruit and fucking regular ass carbs. And that's really a sickness that society suffers from. And I was a victim of that for a very long time, like 15 years of my fucking life. And I sacrificed permanently a part of my health to this type of eating. And let me tell you that if you think that you can't give up this food, I promise you, you have a food addiction. And you really need to understand that that manner of thinking is an addiction talking. It is not a normal state for your body or your brain to be in. So from tomorrow, I will go back to my little regular ass diet. And I feel fine doing that because it's just a routine and it's easy to manage. Like I said, even though I had some chicken today, and even though that chicken tastes really good today, y'all, I don't know. I feel like there's some mild changes to how my body feels after eating it, right? It tastes good. Like, it's nice to have like a different type of texture for food, right? Instead of this fucking grilled chicken breast that I usually eat. It's nice, but the thing is that whenever I eat this diet, like, I don't feel any shifts or changes to how I feel physically. But whenever I eat like a hamburger, if it tastes good, but I feel a little bit bloated. I had a little croissant bagel thing when I was in the Capitol for breakfast after I did my blood test. When I tell you, this thing is about the size of a standard bagel, and I used to be able to eat a whole fucking big ass bagel sandwich and feel fine. I ate this little raggedy ass pastry that was the size of a standard bagel, drank some water, had a protein shake, and when I tell you I was so uncomfortably bloated and full from that little fucking bit of bread for the next 2 hours, it was crazy. And I don't feel like that when I eat this diet, right? I never feel like that when I eat this diet. This is why I'm just a big advocate on eating these simple, clean, repetitive diets, because this type of food doesn't make you feel any kind of way. It's just, it gives you energy, it fills you up, and then you move on with your life and with your day. So that is how I am eating currently, and I have done this now. This is the 3rd month, I think, I've been able to eat off, quote unquote, off plan for a couple of days, 2-3 days, and then get back on the horse and literally stay on it for the next consecutive few days and do it effortlessly. Like, again, if you had told me that I would be able to do this shit effortlessly and have no negative feelings about it, if you told me that 2 years ago, I would not have fucking believed you. But because I stopped with this high amount of ultra processed food frequently, multiple times per week, I feel fucking fabulous 99% of the time. And I think people will probably say like, oh, you would probably be able to have unhealthy food more frequently throughout the week and not have your food noise come back. And it's like, let's say that was true. I know that if I eat too many carbs too frequently, my food noise will come back. I also know that if I eat ultra processed food too frequently, my food noise will come back, right? Because I've experienced that for the last 15-20 years of my fucking life. So I don't want to know what the maximum limit of ultra processed food or carbs, what the maximum frequency I can eat it is before the food noise comes back. Like, I don't understand why I would even want to get to that point again, right? So even though I only eat this food 2-3 days a month, even if it was the case that I could do it 5 days or 7 days a month, I don't want to figure out what the maximum limit is. Like, I don't want to go back to being a person that constantly thinks about food, constantly feels like I have to have these intrusive and repetitive thoughts about food. Like, I don't want to go back to being that person. So this 2-3 day little window where I'll have like a couple bites or meals of food that I generally don't tend to have is satisfactory enough for me. It's infrequent enough for me to be able to maintain a normal eating diet the rest of the month. And so for me, that's good enough. And to be quite honest, I don't know, after a few days of having like some snacks that I wanted to eat or some candy that I wanted to eat, I get bored. And I'm just like, I would rather just fucking go back to eat my little raggedy ass, lean protein with my little carbohydrates and my little vegetables and fruit. Like, to be honest, because it's a routine and it's comfortable and I know I'm going to feel fine after eating it and I can go on with my life and do other things, if that makes sense. And it's also more cost effective because fat people waste a lot of fucking money on food. So would I recommend a GLP-1? The answer to that is yes, I would recommend a GLP-1 for short-term use only. If you can afford it, it is worth 3 to 6 months of investment. I know that right now GLP-1s in the United States especially is really fucking cheap. When I was on Saxenda, it was expensive in regards to the price of, in regards to the currency here, it was mildly expensive because the healthcare here does not cover GLP-1s at all. So I had to pay out of pocket fully for my Saxenda pens, but because the government here negotiates as low a price as they can whenever they do these kind of negotiations with these companies from overseas for importing medications, the Saxenda pen for me was like in USD probably like, I don't know, like $50 per pen. And again, people are going to be like, holy shit, that's so cheap. And it's really cheap in USD. But in the country that I live in, the dollar is much stronger currency. So in USD, it's not a lot of money, but in the country I live in, it's a decent amount of money. And again, like I said, I did not go to the full dose. If I had gone to the full dose of 3.0 on Saxenda, it would have probably cost about 1/5, 1/6 of my monthly salary. It would have cost definitely more than my fucking rent, which in my opinion is a lot of money. But to be honest, if you are obese and you want to use a GLP-1 as like a transitionary drug to help you get off of your food addiction and get off your food noise, and you want to get onto a healthy diet, then I think that it is definitely worth investing in it for 3 to 6 months, even if you had to put it on your credit card, because fat people in general tend to waste a lot of fucking money on food anyway. So you've already spent $1,000 a month on fucking bullshit ass food that you didn't need. So I don't understand why we have normalized not being willing to invest a few $1,000s into medication that can help you fix your disordered eating behavior. Because if you follow the diet, in my opinion, it is a high likelihood that you will be able to break your food noise and break your chemical dependency on ultra-processed food, and you'll be able to come out of that period of being on a medication and maintain that long-term diet like I have been able to for the last 65 days. So if you cannot afford a GLP-1, how can you stop your food noise in lieu of a GLP-1? And to be honest, if I had known what I know now a year ago, I would not have started a GLP-1 at all, period. Because I would have just saved that fucking money, right? That was a decent amount of money I spent. I spent over 6, 7, 8 months. I spent the equivalent of like 1 month's whole salary on a GLP-1. And again, because it inadvertently led to me figuring out what was causing my food noise, I'm grateful that I did. But again, like I said, if I had known what I know now, I would have willingly saved that goddamn money. So before I tell you how to stop your food noise, I want to tell people, like, I understand that people get information and they're so excited to like implement it like today, that they want to like make all these changes right now. But guess what? The reality is that you are not going to change your life overnight. You're not going to lose weight quickly. These things don't exist, right? So I don't want anybody to let this video inspire you to do anything drastic, right? Take in the information, listen, consider it, make small baby step implementations of it, see how it affects you personally on a very personal level, and then start to make more changes little by little by little by little. Because I have literally done everything, right? We have all done everything over the years. We've tried all these different diets, all these different methods, and they don't work because we all get so inspired to like do them immediately and change our life immediately, and we're gonna lose weight quickly. And it's like, it doesn't exist, right? If you're fat as fuck, it's gonna take you a long ass time to lose weight. You might as well go ahead and accept that today, right? If you start today, you still gonna be fat a year from now. So you might as well get over it, right? And just focus on making changes in a way that you can maintain them for the rest of your life. So the first thing that I would do is I had food noise, really bad food noise. I would go on an all natural diet and completely eliminate processed food, and I would not have any kind of calorie deficit. And I know, again, I just said that I eat processed food a couple days of a month, right? That's after I eliminated all processed food for a few months. And I would completely eliminated. Nobody is fat because they eat a diet high in all natural fucking food, right? Every fat person eats unhealthy food, high calorie food on a regular basis. You eat food deep fried, you eat food with cheese on it, with all this fat in it, right? With all this sodium in it, with all this sugar on it, right? Even if it's not highly processed, you eat it in a form that makes it extremely palatable to the point where you want to eat a lot of it, right? If you look at this picture contains lean meats, different carbohydrates, vegetables, fruit, nuts, and things high in fat like avocado. And I think that people will see stuff like avocado and nuts and think like those two things are really high in calories, and I could probably eat like 5 avocados. I could probably eat a kilogram of nuts. And while that's true, right, what you find is that a lot of people like to make a lot of really hyperbolic ass statements that don't really make sense in the long term, right? Nuts are very high in calories. It's very easy to eat a lot of fucking nuts accidentally. But the reality is this: if somebody gave you nuts and you could only eat nuts every single day for every single meal, on the first day you'd probably eat a lot of them. But nuts are so nutritionally dense that over time you would really get sick of the flavor, right? They're also really high in fat, and your body is designed to not be able to eat excessive amounts of fat, right? When we mix fat into other things, like deep frying it with carbs and fucking sugar and sodium and shit, you can eat a lot of fat. But when you are eating pure healthy fats like avocados and nuts, you can initially eat a lot of them in one sitting, but over the days, your body will naturally go into a state of regulating them, because no matter how good nuts are or how good avocados are, you cannot eat 3,000 calories of avocados every single day for 20 days in a row, right? That's just not how reality works. A lot of people think that they can, but I guarantee you can't, because these foods, when you mix them with other things, then you can eat a lot of them, because you have the texture is broken up, you have more variety in it. But if you only ate these foods in their purest forms, I promise you would not be able to eat a lot of them. The same thing goes for carbohydrates, right? Potatoes, roasted potato that's been baked in the oven is good. Put some salt on it, pepper on it, a little pat of butter on it. It's good, right? We all like it. We'll all be like, hell yeah, I love a little baked potato with some salt, pepper, and a little bit of butter. Guess what? Potatoes taste a whole fucking lot better when you cut them up and you deep fry those little bitches and you put some salt on them, right? You put some cheese on them, you put sour cream on them, fucking green onions on them. When you start putting all this shit on them, suddenly you can eat exponentially more potatoes than you would have eaten if you had just eaten it in its normal form. The same thing for rice. White rice is good. Most people like white rice. But when you start fucking putting shit in it and mixing it up and frying it in a bunch of fucking oil with eggs and fucking meats and fucking other vegetables and shit, suddenly you can eat huge volumes of it. But the majority of people are not eating huge volumes of plain white rice. The same with pasta. You're not eating huge volumes of plain fucking pasta, right? You got to put all kinds of shit in it in order to eat large volumes of it. And the same thing goes for fruits and vegetables, right? Nobody's fat because we eat too many fruits or vegetables. Pick any fruit or any fucking vegetable. If you eat them mostly in their natural state, nobody's gaining weight because of this shit. The same thing goes with lean meats. Nobody is getting super fat because they're eating air fryer pork chop, right? Because they're eating a grilled steak, because they're eating broiled chicken. Nobody is fat because they're eating protein like that, right? People are fat as fuck because they batter the shit, put it in oil, put all kinds of sauces on it, sodium on it, sugar on it. All this shit makes it so it's so much more palatable that you can consume a whole lot more of it than you would be able to consume if you had eaten it in a state that was simple and natural. So I would go on a diet that had these types of foods and just kept them in their natural fucking state. As close you can get to the natural state, right? Whatever meat you have, cook that shit in as low a calorie way as you can. Keep it lean, lower fat cuts of meat. And I guarantee you, even if you can eat a lot of food initially at the beginning, over time, you will start to get bored, right? Because people see food as fun. A lot of fat people see food as fun. I used to think of food as fun. I promise you that shit is not normal. It is not normal to think of food as something that is fun. That is, again, an addiction talking. But when you eat food in its natural state, your body will slowly but surely get used to it, get normalized with it, and you will start to inadvertently, subconsciously start to moderate it, and it will result in your weight loss. So that's the first thing that I would do. And people will say, like, until when should I eliminate processed food? You should eliminate processed food until you can no longer think about it, until you wake up and you don't care about it, until you can walk past fast food places and not be bothered by the smell of it, until you can sit in front of your favorite high reward, highly palatable processed food and not be bothered to eat it, right? I can sit in front of a plate of fries and not give a fuck about them fries. Like, I can just be like, nah, I'm not going to eat any fries. I'm on my regular diet. Like, when my period starts, I'll have some fries if I want some. Until you get to the point where you are completely unbothered by these types of food, I would not eat any of those bitches. And for some people, right, it's going to vary based on person to person, right? For me, it was like maybe 2 months or so. But some people might take them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, right? It depends on you yourself, right? You should not be in a state of negotiating when you're going to have your next unhealthy food. That's not a normal fucking behavior. Thinking like, oh my God, I have to like diet. Like, no, it'll be fine. Like, if I'll have some like bread here, or I can have a piece of pizza there. Like, oh, this weekend, I'm going to go here and have that. Like, this constant pre-planning and constant inability to wait to eat certain food. all of those thoughts, those intrusive, repetitive thoughts that I used to have, that you probably have, yeah, guess what? That shit is not fucking normal. It's not normal. Your brain should not be doing that. And if it is doing that, there's a reason why those thoughts are always concerning unhealthy or highly palatable food. Nobody has those kind of thoughts about carrots, right? Nobody's like, oh my God, I really want to eat some fucking carrots. I can't wait to get home and eat my carrots, right? Oh my God, I can't wait to get that celery juice in, right? Nobody has those repetitive thoughts about food like that for a reason, because nobody feels that way about carrots, because carrots, they don't have addictive fucking properties in them, right? Neither does celery, right? Neither does chicken breast that's been boiled in salt, right? Nobody's thinking like, oh my God, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and get some of that poached chicken breast with salt on it. Like, nobody thinks like that about those foods because they don't have addictive properties in them. So long as you are having these repetitive thoughts consistently about these foods, or you feel stressed about these foods, or anxious around these foods, or when thinking about these foods, or feeling like you're restricting yourself when you can't have these foods, I would not eat any of those little bitches, because that is not normal. Second, I would only eat carbohydrates at dinner time if I am not exercising during the daytime. Again, as I showed in my eating plan earlier in the video, I have a small amount of carbohydrates in the morning, but that's because I go to the gym in the morning and I lift weights heavy, and I also do cardio in the morning primarily. So I do 10,000 steps in the morning before I even leave the gym. When I walk to the gym, it's about roughly 1,500 steps. When I come out of the gym, my pedometer is at 10,000 steps, or usually more, like 12,000. So I do a lot of exercise when I'm at the gym. So I need carbohydrates to fuel me while I'm there, a small amount. But as I said, I primarily get the majority of my carbohydrates for the day the night before I go to sleep. I'm not saying that carbohydrates are fucking villains, because they are not villains, but carbohydrates are energy. You eat them when you need quick energy. You need to be doing something to burn them off, right? Athletes, they'll eat a lot of carbs the night before they do a big race. They'll eat carbs the morning of the race. That's because they're about to run a fucking race and they're about to burn that shit, right? But if you are going to sit on your ass around the house or sit on your ass at a job, no, you don't need carbohydrates, right? Because your body is subsisting off of glycogen and glucose that is being stored in your muscles, which is why you don't die when you go to sleep at night, right? It's not the case that you can't go 12 hours during your waking day not eating carbohydrates and not survive it. You'll survive it just fine. And so by leaving your blood sugar undisrupted, you will not be hungry throughout the morning and the afternoon, and then you can just have your carbs at night before you go to sleep, and then you'll be fine because your blood sugar will rise and fall while you are asleep. And so in the morning, you will be back at baseline. You can just start the process over again. And again, like I said, doing this initially, when I first changed my diet, it made it so that when I tell y'all I cannot eat that many carbs anymore, of anything, right? It can be potatoes, it can be bread, it can be anything. I used to be able to eat so many carbohydrates and feel a bit bloated, but not like uncomfortably bloated. But now I fucking get so bloated to the point where like I feel uncomfortable if I eat too many carbs. And I also noticed that whenever I get bloated from carbohydrates, I also get this inclination to be like, oh, I really want something sweet. Like, and I don't have that feeling when I'm eating my little chicken breast and I'm eating my vegetables and my fruit. I never get that feeling. But when I get too many carbs and I get that bloated feeling, I immediately want to have something sweet. And I realize there's a correlation between feeling bloated and wanting something sweet. And if you're somebody that has that inclination, I want you to see if it's connected to how many fucking carbohydrates you eat. Because for me, it is definitely connected. And this is why I'm kind of like against people eating like bread at restaurants, because notice how they give the bread for free and they give you this impression that it's some kind of incentive, and it's really not. What carbohydrates do, they give you energy, but they also control how strong your appetite is. So carbohydrates increase the appetite. When you eat low carb, if you've ever done like a low carb diet, you notice that you can eat protein and you can eat fats and vegetables and stuff, but it's very hard to eat large amounts of food when you have zero carbs on your plate, because the carbohydrates literally whet the appetite. So they increase your appetite, they make you want to eat a bunch of your entree, and when you eat a bunch of your entree and the carbohydrates, you are so bloated that you want to get something sweet and you order a dessert, which is why I wouldn't recommend that you fucking eat the bread at restaurants until your protein arrives, because when you mix carbohydrates with protein and with fat and you eat them all together, the fat and the protein break down slower, and it causes the carbohydrates to also digest slower, and it causes your blood sugar to rise much more slowly than if you had, for example, a donut for breakfast, right? If you have a donut for breakfast, there's no protein in it, and so your blood sugar is about to fucking skyrocket, and then it's about to drop again suddenly. But if you had, for example, let's say a steak, you had a fat ass steak with some butter on it, or some, let's say, avocado on the side, and then you had a donut with it together, and you ate all three of those things, that donut carbohydrate content is not going to be as impactful as it would have been if you had just eaten the donut alone, which is why it is often recommended you don't eat carbohydrates without protein and or fats together. And then the third thing that I would do is, once the food noise is completely gone, then I would move into a small calorie deficit and then add in some exercise. So in my opinion, the most important thing to do is completely break your dependency on highly palatable food, and to silence the food noise, right? It needs to be silenced. It is not normal to have food noise, and there is a reason that your food noise is always regarding processed food or highly palatable food, right? Again, nobody has food noise about scrambled eggs, right? A lot of people love a scrambled egg, right? We love a scrambled egg. We love a fried egg. Nobody's just like, oh my God, I can't wait to have a whole platter of deviled eggs, right? I love deviled eggs, but I could probably eat a lot of deviled eggs for one day, and then the next day it's kind of like it's lost its glimmer, like it's not as delicious, because again, deviled eggs are not, they don't have addictive properties in them, right? Generally, they don't. There's a reason why your food noise is always regarding highly palatable processed bullshit food that's high in sodium, high in carbs, low in protein, high in fat, high in sugar. There's a reason why, because those foods have addictive properties in them naturally, and they need to fucking be regulated. So the most important thing is to silence the food noise, break the dependency your brain has on fun food, and then move into like a slight deficit, and then see how you feel if you can manage that, and then add in a little bit of exercise and see if you can manage that. And for me, the exercise I would recommend is just getting in 10,000 steps a day. And I say this because for a lot of people, especially like Americans get way under fucking 5,000 steps a day. Like, it's a really pathetic amount of steps the average American gets in a day, because Americans rely so heavily on cars. But pick some small habit that you can repeat over and over and over again every day. And I think steps are an easy one to start with. And the thing for me is not how many calories you burn. Like, I'm not going to say that going to the gym is necessarily important about calories in the beginning, right? Walking is not important when it comes to calories in the beginning. What, in my opinion, is most important is developing the repetitive habit of doing it, right? Always making sure you get in those 10,000 steps. And once it becomes a part of your life, it will be very hard for you to accept not doing it anymore, right? For example, brushing your teeth, washing your hair, taking showers before you go to sleep. We do all of these things not just because we've been trained to do them, but because they become so habitual. If you don't brush your teeth and you lay down, like, you just feel like your teeth are dirty, right? You feel unclean. And that feeling of uncleanliness makes you get up and brush your teeth and take a shower, right? Wash your hair and then go back to sleep, right? So the same thing is for exercise. Like, you are not going to become an exercise machine over fucking night. You're not. And you can try, but I guarantee you're going to regret it, because when you are out of shape, your body is in such poor conditioning that it will compensate for too much exercise by making you feel tired for like the next 4 days, which is just going to balance itself out, right? If you did 20,000 steps suddenly one day and you used to do 2,000, the next few days, you're going to be so tired that you're not going to be able to walk that much, which means that you have essentially balanced it out to where, on average, you only walked a certain number of steps. So you might as well just go ahead and stick to a reasonable amount of steps and do that over time and build it up over time, rather than try to do too much at once and end up getting fatigued or end up quitting because it feels like too much change all at one time. The same thing for the gym. I wasted so many years, literally the last 15 years, I used to go to the gym and go for a few weeks and quit. And I realized that was because I was trying to like go to the gym like a person who likes going to the gym, right? I like going to the gym now. Right? I didn't used to like going to the gym when I first started fucking going to the gym. And I didn't realize that it's normal not to like something or feel bothered by something because it's not part of your routine. So I would start off by literally picking like 1, 2, or 3 days a week where you can go. And I wouldn't even worry about a program. Don't worry about anything. The habit of packing your bag, going your ass to the gym, doing some kind of exercises, and taking your ass home, and do this so repetitively until it becomes a standardized part of your life. And then you can work on getting some kind of program. And then you can work on lifting a certain amount of weight, a certain amount of times, right? I think that we live in a society right now where people want everything to be perfect, again, on day one. But in my opinion, I think developing the habit of doing some kind of movement and then slowly but surely adding to it over time is way more important than going and starting perfectly on day one. And again, this is why I don't recommend that people take advice from people who have always been into fitness and have never been fat or sedentary, because I think that those people, they have good intentions, but they don't know what it feels like to be out of shape. They don't know what it feels like to be inclined to be sedentary. Even though I go to the gym now 7 days a week, I struggled so hard to go to the gym when I first started going, and I decided to just suffer through it. And over time, what I learned is that you get used to it. It becomes part of your routine. It becomes part of your habit. And little by little, I started to stay at the gym longer and longer and longer. And now when I go to the gym, I'm there for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours sometimes. Like, it's out of hand at this point. But when I first started going, I used to struggle to be there for like 20, 30 minutes. So go and stay for as long as you can. Do as many exercises as you can. Even if it's not perfect, showing up and trying to do something is better than not going. And then over time, you will naturally start to lock in, right? Don't try to lock in on day fucking one. It's better to lock in on day 100 than it is to lock in on fucking day one and then quit on day 10. So that's my opinion when it comes to the gym. And then finally, I wanted to end this video with some realities about weight loss. And I think we all know that these things are true, but I think that we have a hard time kind of accepting them. And a few of them I have a hard time accepting even still. Like, I'm pissed off about a lot of these things, but they are just realities that we cannot overcome, and you have to accept them if you want to fucking lose weight. So the first one is that your body bets against you. And this is where a lot of fat logic comes from, because a lot of fat people, they think that this stuff like starvation mode, set point theory, these things are all to some degree have some degree of truth to them. But the reality is that when you try to change your body's composition and you try to lose weight, your body is designed to fucking survive, right? It doesn't care that being 200 pounds overweight is fucking bad for you, right? Your body thinks that having more fat is always better than having less. And so when you start to lose fucking weight, you will lose water weight initially, but actual start losing body fat, your body will try to resist this change. It is designed to resist this change. It will try to make you sleepier, make you more fatigued. It will try to make you hungrier, right? It will try to do whatever it can to try to keep its state, right? To maintain homeostasis. That's just how we are designed. So what I realize is that weight loss is not input output. It technically is, but when it comes to like the scale and your body's physically actually burning the fat, closing the cells down and dropping the weight, your body is going to constantly try to resist and resist and resist and resist, which is why you have to mentally keep going even when it seems like it's not working, because your body is literally designed to make it seem like it's not working because it wants you to give up and stay the same. And it doesn't really care if that's not what you want, because we are, again, designed to survive. So the next one is fitness influencers are fucking liars, and they obscure the realities of weight loss so much. And a big way they do this is they make it seem like you can gain muscle a lot easier than you can. They shorten the periods that weight loss takes. They shorten the seeming periods that muscle takes. A lot of influencers, if you watch them closely, they'll go on like a diet or like a cut, and then they'll seemingly lose body fat in this really short period of time, right? But I realized that it's not that they're losing body fat quickly, it's that they're lying about how long it took them. So nobody wants to hear that weight loss is going to take you a year or two. Nobody wants to hear that, right? People want very much to believe that weight loss takes a lot less time than it does. Otherwise, they'll get defeated early on and quit early on. But a lot of influencers, first of all, they cannot sell you anything if they can't make you believe that it's easier than it is, right? So however long you think it took them to lose weight, I guarantee you they're at least lying about 50% of it, if not 80% of it, if not 100% of it, they're lying. I saw recently a fitness influencer, he went on a cut and he claimed that he lost 20 pounds of body fat in 100 days. And while it's definitely possible to do that, it's probably very unlikely that he did that. But because people don't like the reality that it probably would take you 4 to 5 to 6 months to lose 20 pounds of body fat. He has to tell you it took 100 days because 100 days is way better than a fucking 120 days, 150 days, right? It's way better, right? That's a nice round number, a seemingly short amount of time. So a lot of influencers, they blatantly lie about how long it takes to build muscle. A lot of them, they record a lot of videos when they were fatter and heavier, and then they'll continue to use videos that are years old to show these kind of like quick transformations because it's good for their brand and it makes people to want to sign up with them. But personally, I would say don't follow any fucking fitness influencer or anybody who has any kind of fucking coupon code or discount code or any sponsorship in a fucking bio, because they are all trying to sell you something, and the truth does not sell very well when it comes to weight loss. The next one is weight loss takes a really long time. However long you think that shit should take is going to triple that shit. Triple it, right? If you have 5 pounds to lose and you think like, I can technically lose 1 pound a week and I should be able to finish in 5 weeks. Yeah, it's going to take you 2.5 months to lose those 5 pounds, right? If you're really slim, it's going to take you 2.5 months to lose those 5 pounds. And you're going to think like, it shouldn't take that long. It's going to take you 2.5 months to lose those 5 fucking pounds. It's going to take you 2.5 months. It shouldn't. You feel like it. That's ridiculous. I promise you it's going to take you 2.5 months to lose those 5 pounds. That's what's going to happen. I started out at the beginning of this year at 96 kilograms. And in my mind, I'm like, I should, in theory, be able to, if I calculate this, I should be able to lose 20 kilograms in this year. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to happen, guys. Like, I'm not going to lose 20 kilograms in 9 months. Is it technically possible? Yes. But is it reasonable that I am going to be able to consistently maintain that for like 9, 10, 11 months? Yeah, most people have jobs, right? Most people have other obligations they have to work on. They cannot dedicate this huge amount of time to constantly being in the fucking gym and exercising and being in a fucking deficit. So it's unreasonable that it's going to be done in this short amount of time. If you have 150 pounds to fucking lose, you need to plan on losing that shit over the next 3 years. Can you technically lose it in a year? Yes, people have done it. Are you going to do it in a year? Probably fucking not. So you might as well accept that early on and plan for the next 2 to 3 years to lose that amount of weight. And that's only if you are consistent in doing it. I have been in a deficit for the last like 5 months, and I am literally mentally tired of it, right? Like, I feel like I've been in a deficit for too long, and generally it's not recommended you stay in a diet for more than I think 12 weeks. So this is why this time I've eaten calories for more days in a row, because I need more calories just in general to make myself feel better, and take like a week or so off. I think I'm going to take about a week off. Like next week I'm going to back on my diet, but I'm not going to be super strict. I think I'm going to eat slightly more carbs or slightly more fruit, slightly more fat. Like I'm going to add some butter to my rice and shit like that to increase my fat intake, just for a week or so, to give myself a break from being in a deficit. But I promise you, in order to lose the last 26 kilograms that I want to lose, like I have 13 kilograms left to lose. I am currently 83.5 kilos. It's going to take me until next March or next April to do so. Even if technically I should be able to lose weight in a shorter amount of time, yeah, it doesn't matter, right? I've decided to give up and stop trying to waste, to hurry up this bullshit. It's going to take you a long ass motherfucking time. So you might as well just go ahead and accept that shit right now and move on with your goddamn life. Next is that you cannot speed up the process. You can try, right? Everybody tries. They try crash diets. They try to eat a limited amount of calories. They try to exercise a bunch. Guess what? Your body is going to balance the scale back up, right? You can go several weeks, several days, several months eating a really, really low amount of calories. Guess what's going to happen? Your body's going to eventually crash, and then you're going to eat that shit back because your body is going to balance the scale out. It's going to balance it out. If you eat too few calories, your body compensates by lowering your energy, your physical energy, your mental energy so low that you feel like you can't think. You feel like you don't have the energy to do anything. You don't want to go anywhere. You just want to lay around. I know that when my calories are too low, I don't have the mental energy to even do anything. So you always have to be in a slight deficit, right? And when you exercise depends on how fit you are in general, right? Some people can get away with running 20 miles a fucking day, but those are generally marathon runners, right? The average person cannot get away with running that much or exercising that much. And if you try, your body will compensate by making you so fatigued for long periods of time that you essentially don't want to do anything, and it will essentially rebalance back the scale where you'll exercise a lot on day 1, and then day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you don't have the energy to do anything else. Therefore, you haven't exercised that much in a 1 week period. So it's better, again, like I said, accept the fact that weight loss takes a long time. You have to do everything in moderation, and you have to accept the fact that it's going to take you literal months and years to lose weight. It does not exist a scenario where weight loss takes days and weeks. It takes months and years. Next, everything in moderation is bullshit. And I say this especially for people who are morbidly obese and have a problem with like food noise and addiction to food. Yeah, there are certain foods, certain styles, certain types of eating that you need to cut out completely. Almost 99%, like I say, or for some people 100%, you need to cut it the fuck out. A lot of dietitians who have never been fat or never been very fat, they think that stuff that is written in their medical books supersede individual distinction, right? Individual people have certain predispositions towards suffering with certain dispositions towards being addicted to food, right? For some reason, some people can eat processed food day in, day out, eat like shit, and never eat so much that they get fat, right? We all know a person that eats like shit, but they are slim because they never eat like shit in large amounts. We don't know why some people can get away with doing it. We don't care, right? Who gives a fuck? You can't do it. That's all you need to worry about, is that you can't do it. So for me, I cannot eat too many carbohydrates too frequently. I also cannot eat ultra processed food too frequently, which is why I eat it 1 or 2 days a month, and that is it. And that is not even considered moderation, right? That is considered very infrequent, right? To have one piece of pizza once a month is considered very infrequent, right? That's not even a normal level of moderation, right? I think people would say having pizza maybe once a week is moderation, but have it infrequently or never have it again. If it's something that really, really fucking triggers you, if it's a food that you don't need to fucking eat, stop fucking eating it. If it's a behavior that you know triggers you, a person that triggers you, who gives a fuck what it is, stop doing it completely, or limit it to almost never, right? Very, very rarely. Stop letting these people tell you that you can have all the foods you like to eat as long as you have them in moderation, as long as you count the calories. Yeah, guess what? Even though calories in, calories out is reality, different amounts of foods and different types of foods and the quality of the calories and the source of the calories affect people in different ways, right? Again, yes, 1,000 calories of processed food is going to be technically a deficit, right? If you only eat 1,000 calories of processed food, that's technically a deficit, but 1,000 calories of food is going to cause your food noise in a lot of people to go fucking wild, right? And it's going to result in generally you wanting to eat even more than you would have had you just stuck to natural fucking food. So this is bullshit, and stop taking advice from people who have never been fat, because they don't know the reasons why why fat people struggle with eating and obesity, because they have never experienced it directly themselves. And medical text to some degree has fucking limitations in it, right? That's just the way that it is. Another one is weekly weigh-ins is bullshit, especially for women. I don't know how we, again, normalize this idea that our body is going to always reflect scale weight loss every single week. Every 7 days, your body will show that you have lost weight every single week. That is simply not how your body works. Again, especially for women, like I said, our body naturally fluctuates in weight for a fucking ton of reasons, right? It could be constipation. It could be how much water you drink. It could be whether or not you slept last night. It could be how much sodium you ate, how many carbohydrates you ate. If you exercise, your body will swell slightly in order to make repairs to your muscles and ligaments. And so you'll carry extra weight, right? It is not necessarily reasonable that you lose weight every single week on the scale, even though you are technically losing body fat on a daily basis, right? The scale is not always going to reflect it. I have lost to date 53 fucking kilograms, and I have never lost weight on a weekly basis. Not once. Even when I was 135 kilograms, in my phone app, I have all of my weigh-ins like marked down. When I tell you that my weigh-ins are always 2 to 3 or 4 weeks apart when I actually had some shift in weight, it's ridiculous. And this is when I weighed almost 300 pounds. I would have weeks where my weight would be the exact same number. The exact same fucking number. And then after a couple weeks, it would drop drastically again, right? So right now, I weighed myself for the first time in like 7 weeks 3 days ago, because I got so sick of the scale fucking not moving. Like, it was driving me crazy, right? So I decided, you know what? I know I'm in a deficit. I know I'm not eating enough calories. I know this, so I don't need to keep looking at the scale, right? I can feel my clothes fitting differently. I can feel, my body changing. I can see it. The scale isn't moving because when you lose weight, your body doesn't just immediately close off fat cells. What it will do is, like I said, your body is betting against you. So even though the fat has been metabolized, your body will temporarily fill the cell with water in order to wait for you to gain the weight back. But after some period of time, determined based on a bunch of factors, your body finally gives up and it drops the water weight, right? I would recommend that most people don't weigh in on a weekly basis, maybe every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes longer. But when the scale doesn't move, so long as you know you haven't eaten that much food, you know for a fact you have not, you absolutely have not, then assume the scale is a fucking liar and just continue to keep going. Another thing is weight loss is not linear. So we all know you have to eat in a deficit of about 3,500 calories in order to quote unquote lose weight. But the reality is, even if you ate at a deficit of 3,500 calories and then you stood on the scale, you might not have lost a pound of fat on the scale. You technically lost it physically, but the scale might not reflect it. So your body will just go through fluctuation several days, every few hours, sometimes weeks, and then it'll drop. And then it'll start that fluctuation again, and then it'll drop, right? This just continues to go on. Your body tends to trend downward in weight loss. And so people feel like because when they weigh themselves every week or 2 regularly, they don't see the scale moving or it goes up or down, it's all over the place, they feel like they're not losing weight. They allow this to discourage them, but this is unfortunately completely fucking normal. Again, this is why I don't recommend you weigh yourself very frequently, because I weighed in August 1st at 88 kilograms, and then the end of August, I think like September 1st, I weighed in at 88 motherfucking kilograms. And when I tell you, I was so pissed the fuck off. I was like, that makes no sense, right? Like, my clothes fucking look like shit. My clothes are so baggy on me. Like, why the fuck is the scale not moving? Like, I was losing my mind. And then I decided, you know what? I'm not weighing myself. Like, I'm sick of this bullshit. I'm not weighing myself at all until I go to see my doctor. And so for 7 weeks, I did not step on the scale. I just continued my diet. And then the day that I went to go see my doctor, I weighed myself and I weighed 83.5 fucking kilograms. So I lost 4.5 kilograms without paying attention whatsoever, right? The weight is going to come off, period, anyway. Stop watching the fucking scale. Again, plateaus are very normal. Again, this is why I don't like weight loss spaces, because they tell you that if you eat at certain amount of calories deficit per day, you are guaranteed to lose XYZ amount of weight in this certain time period. Guaranteed. That's not true. Like I said, your body is designed to fucking survive. Your body will do whatever it takes to maintain a certain level of homeostasis for sometimes weeks on end. There's an idea that plateaus generally only last 2 to 3 or 4 weeks. If your plateau lasts more than 4 weeks, then something's wrong with you. That's a fucking lie. Because I had a plateau that lasts for almost 7 weeks. I've heard of people having plateaus for like 9, 10, 11 fucking weeks, where their body is getting so slim and the scale is not moving. Things, scientific things, biological things are oftentimes condensed down into easy to understand facts. Like, if you eat in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight, right? That's true, but they don't explain all the layers to it, right? There's layers to it. Your body is designed to survive. It's designed to maintain homeostasis. Your body will hold on to water for long periods of time, right? You'll sleep, you're eating, how many macros of certain foods you eat, all impact whether or not you carry water weight, like how much you exercise, all of these things, your hormones, right? All of these things play such a big role, and it's so outrageously complex, to the point where you can go through plateaus for weeks. I was in a plateau for almost 7 motherfucking weeks. And when I tell you this scale was stuck at 90 kilograms, it would not even move to 89.9 kilograms, right? It wouldn't move. It would be stuck at 90.5, 90.4, 90.3, 90.6, 90.5. I could drink a liter of water and get on the scale again, and it would still be 90.6, right? I was so mad. I was like, how does it make sense that your fucking body can stay in a fucking plateau this long? And then after like 7 weeks, my body dropped 2.5 kilograms on the scale in like 2 days. Right. And then it went down 88 kilograms. And then once I was at 88, again, my body stayed in this fucking plateau for another 6-7 weeks. And I decided I'm not weighing myself anymore. I'm sick of this bullshit. And then I didn't weigh for another 7 weeks. And now I'm 83.5 kilograms. You understand what I'm saying? So I am losing weight, but for weeks and weeks on end, the scale simply doesn't move for me. It doesn't move for a lot of people, and this is completely fucking normal, which is why you should just focus on maintaining a normal diet and eating it back to back to back continuously over long periods of time. And you should focus on getting exercise and not focus on constantly fucking weighing yourself. Next thing is that weight loss requires selfishness. If you are going to lose weight, if you're going to change your eating habits, if you're going to change your life in some way, you need to be fucking selfish about it. And you need to impose this on your life and stop letting other people get in the way of your fucking goals. And I'm not saying that people necessarily do this intentionally. We all want to have like relationships with other people and like maintain friendships and shit like that. But you have to make a goal and you have to put up boundaries to stop other people from fucking interfering in that goal. And that's something that I realized that I did a lot. I would start off a diet and I would be like, okay, from today I'm going to do this. And then I would meet a friend or meet somebody and they would offer me certain foods or like, let's go here and let's do that. And like, it would just derail me, right? I would get derailed. I would have some fucking little snack that somebody offered me and eat it. And then I would get like, oh, well, fuck, I already fucked this up. I might as well eat this, and I might as well do that, and I might as well give up this day. This day is wasted. And then it just turned into multiple days that end like that. But what I started to do was I started limiting contact with people that are just unnecessary people in general, right? I started limiting going to unnecessary events that have unnecessary food, especially in the United States. A lot of any kind of socializing revolves around fucking eating bullshit food. You have people always constantly offering food. Like if you work in an office, apparently offices in the US are all constantly fucking overflowing with bullshit food. People fucking constantly expecting you to eat all kind of bullshit. Guess what? You don't have to eat any of that shit. If somebody gives you food and you don't want it, throw that shit in the fucking trash. Accept it. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. It'll be real great. And throw it in the trash. Right? If you are eating something and you're tired of eating it, oh my God, the starving kids of Africa, fuck them. They're going to still be starving. Throw that shit in the trash if you don't want it anymore. Put it down if you don't want it anymore. Let it go to waste if you don't want it anymore, right? Stop letting other people dictate your life, right? If you need to go to the gym and your friend calls you like, oh, I really want to invite you to this thing and I really want to do that. Terrific, but it interferes with my ability to go to the fucking gym, so I'm not coming, right? You have to put up these boundaries with people, and you don't have to explain any of this shit to people. Just say no, right? You bought your meal prep today, right? Oh, my job decided they're going to cater. Who gives a fuck? We don't care. You don't have to explain anything to anybody. Say no, get your little meal prep out, eat your meal prep, mind your fucking business, right? You don't have to validate anybody else. You need to worry about yourself. And when you start doing this, you will start to lose weight, right? Weight loss requires long months and years of maintaining a consistent behavior. That's what it requires. Going to the gym consistently, eating in a deficit consistently for months and for fucking years. And during those months and years, you will have all different kinds of obstacles pop up to try to derail you. You need to block all of them out. Even if people get upset about it, who gives a fuck? You come first, right? I'm the most important person to me. You are the most important person to you. You have to enforce that shit very strongly, otherwise people will fuck up your plans. We all know that diet and exercise is a lifestyle change. At the end of the day, this is not something you're doing short term, which is why you need to find a diet that you can maintain for a long time. Again, I'm going to say this last time just in case people skip to this part. Needing to have fast food and processed food on a regular basis is not fucking normal. You know you don't need it in moderation. That's not a lifestyle change. That's the fucking maintaining of addiction. You need to stop doing that. You need to stop doing it. It's not normal. A person that cannot stop having alcohol once a month, right? They can't have alcohol once a month. They can't have alcohol they can't not have alcohol for 3, 4, 5, 6 months in a row. We would all say that was abnormal. The same thing applies to fucking food. When you go on a quote unquote diet, you are changing your lifestyle for the rest of your life, right? You're not eating junk food, processed food, high calorie food regularly for the rest of your life. And if you are able to break your addiction to it, you will not find this shit restrictive whatsoever. Like, I don't find it restrictive whatsoever, right? I just got done eating some fried chicken, and I put the rest of it in the refrigerator, and I'm about to finish this video, drink some water, go to the gym, walk my dogs, right? Edit this video, and then wake up tomorrow morning from the mornings, eat my diet, and follow my diet throughout the rest of the week for the next, 27 days, however long it takes for my period to start again, and I'm not bothered by it whatsoever. And I've gotten to this point just through realizing the things that were really fucking me up. And I feel like this is something that I can maintain for the rest of my life, be in a deficit for the rest of my life, obviously. But when I start eating more calories, I am going to incorporate fat. That's it. I'm going to incorporate avocado, peanut butter, butter, oils and stuff like that, nuts, stuff like that. Like, I'm not going to start adding in ultra processed food or a lot of carbohydrates into my diet once I start eating that maintenance calories. I start reach my goal weight. I'm going to probably stop going to the gym for 2 hours a day and start going to the gym an hour and a half a day, an hour a day, something like that. I'm going to walk probably 15,000 steps instead of 20,000 steps, something like that, right? But I'm going to maintain this change for the rest of my life because I realize that I feel better, right? It makes my life better to do these things, and they are normalized for me now, right? It's not work for me now. It feels quite easily to maintain it once you get into the groove of it. Making the initial changes is hard, especially if you do too much too fast. But once it becomes your habit, you get used to it. And so for me right now, it's a good habit, and I want to maintain that lifestyle change. And finally, I want to remind people that you need to keep your goals or plans to yourself. A lot of people, what they do is they go on diets, they go on lifestyle changes, and then they feel the need to kind of announce this to everybody around you, right? You don't have to announce yourself to everybody. And once you take your business and you put it out into the public domain, then it becomes something everybody can comment on. A lot of people have their own opinions on weight loss and on exercising and diet and whatever, right? They are entitled to those opinions, and we don't give a fuck, right? Find something that works for you and then just start doing it, right? Don't explain to anybody why you're doing it. Don't answer any questions. If somebody says, oh, are you on a diet? You don't have to answer that. You don't have to say, yes, I'm on a diet. I'm trying to lose 10 pounds. I'm trying to lose 100 pounds. You don't have to answer that. You don't have to say anything, right? You don't have to explain anything. You don't even have to lie. You can just simply choose to ignore the fucking question. I go to the gym 7 days a week, and outside of YouTube, nobody in my life knows that I go to the gym 7 days a week. Nobody knows that I go to the gym 25 hours a fucking week. Nobody knows that I walk 20,000 steps a day, right? Nobody knows that I eat the diet that I eat, right? Nobody knows any of this shit. Nobody knows that I've lost 13 kilograms in the last month, right? Because I don't explain myself to other people. I had somebody at work notice like that I had lost weight, and they were like, did you lose weight? And I didn't answer the question. That's it. I don't fucking have to answer the question, right? Don't make shit into topics that you don't need to make into fucking topics, because you will find that your families, your friends, your coworkers, all these people around you are going to suddenly become the biggest fucking haters in the world, right? Because nobody wants you to change, because they don't want you to prove the fact that they couldn't do something that you are currently doing. So I will always recommend to people to keep your business to your goddamn self. Make the changes yourself. If you find a strategy that works, if other people ask about it, don't even tell them, because they don't really want the answer from you, right? They just want to feel good about themselves, right? You'll have people ask you like, oh, how did you lose weight? Everybody knows that calories in, calories out, and going to the gym and eating in a deficit is how you lose weight. They all know it, right? But they pretend like they don't, because they pretend like they want to change, but they really don't. So you can't really save anybody else. Save your goddamn self, save your own fucking sanity, and keep your shit to your goddamn self, and mind your own business. If you made it to the end of this video, I want to thank you. And this has been a Cosmic Nebula video, and I will see y'all in the next one.